Good morning. It is 6:57 a.m. on Wednesday, September 15th, 2021. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. So, mea culpa from yesterday. Not for the video going up late, 'cause that was not my fault. YouTube was being weird. But what I So let me explain the little chain of thoughts in my brain that led to me misstating a fact yesterday related to all of the Stephen King stuff. So when I decided to check out this podcast's Just King Things based on recommendation of people, other podcasters who I have found worth listening to in the past, I went and looked and I found the very first episode and I was thinking, you know what? That's a book that I haven't read. I should read that first. I'll get the audiobook of it. And I was thinking, okay, Christine. And I went and I found the audiobook for Christine and I started listening to it and I realized very promptly, it's like, oh, wait, this is the Killer Car one. For some reason, I thought this was the prom night telekinetic pig's blood one. And then I just figured, oh yeah, that's a relatively simple mistake. They're both C, feminine names with the C sound. C, Christine, Carrie. It's like, it's just a simple mistake. But then I listened to the entirety of Christine and enjoyed it, so I don't regret that per se. But then when I went to go listen to the podcast episode at last, it actually was Carrie. So I had seen the podcast episode, Carrie, knew which one was Carrie, but then somehow when I went to actually get the book, I ended up downloading Christine instead. And so, yeah. Womp womp. I don't regret listening to Christine. I liked it. I'm actually intrigued to watch the movie now because my impression, I have not watched the movie, even though I'm a John Carpenter fan, but I have the impression that a fair amount of it has changed. So I'm kind of interested to see what they changed. I certainly know a handful of things that I probably would change if I were making it a movie, but I don't know. I'll check that out. But in the meantime, Carrie. I'm not gonna go too much more into that now, but I did, yeah. And the thing is that Just King Things podcast hasn't even actually made their way up to Christine yet, so it's not like I could have just listened to that episode instead. Oh well. So we had a new episode of So Many Levels last night, and it went pretty well. It was a good example of an episode where the party could have done a couple of different pretty wildly divergent things, and so I wasn't really sure exactly which direction they were going to go. So I had a vague idea of what would happen if they did option A, say, but I didn't have as much detail for what happened if they did B. So I mostly prepared stuff for B, only for them to, of course, do A. Yeah, it's fine. And it went well. We're definitely exploring some things that I had previously thought of, and so I'm intrigued, and everyone uh, seemed to be having fun at the end of the last session. So I'm definitely excited to keep on playing that. I had decided at the end, at last week prior to that episode. We were going to be down one player, which we've played before with a missing player, and sometimes we'd do one shots or whatever. But I was feeling last week just like I've talked in the past about how occasionally I have this little mental circuit that is probably tied to feelings of social anxiety, but things that I'm looking forward to that I will, put on my schedule on purpose because I want to do them. But then when it comes to being a day or so ahead of time, my brain will start telling me, oh, you know what? Wouldn't it be easier to just not do that? And I don't think that was quite what was happening last week. I was just not in a headspace where I felt like ready and excited to DM a game on that particular night. And I'm kind of glad, at least in this case, that I listened to it on that occasion. And so, we did take a week off last week, but nonetheless was very happy to be back into it this week. So, I'm going to leave it there for now. I've got to get to work, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.